Hi everyone, it's Phil here from Ashland Leather, and I have 4 different shell Cordovan colors with color numbered names on the table here to show you. We're going to compare and contrast color number 2 shell Cordovan, color 4, color 8, and color number 16 shell Cordovan. The first color we're going to look at is called color number 2, which is actually now a past name. This color is now known as garnet shell Cordovan, but before it was known as garnet, this was known as color number 2 or ruby shell Cordovan. The tannery actually changed the color name because the dyes that they were receiving were slightly different and they didn't want to confuse their customers. So this one right here is the most red color that Horween makes, and it's a really beautiful shade. At some angles actually, it kind of encroaches a little bit darker and a little bit more brown, sort of like a color 4, but it's definitely more ruby red than any of the other colors that we're going to look at. So you'll notice as I spin this around, the colors will become a little bit lighter and a little bit darker. So at this angle here, I'm noticing it's about the light range that we normally see, a little bit of orange to it almost. And then as I spin it around, it becomes a little bit darker and more brown. The next color up, for many years, this was my favorite shell Cordovan color. This is color number 4 shell Cordovan. And color 4 is a medium brown. It definitely has some reddish undertones to it. So let's spin this one around and look at the color range that we have here. In fact, we have several special Johnny the Foxes that we're releasing today for our Father's Day week. And we'll be looking a little bit closer at this later. It's color 4 shell Cordovan. It might actually be easier for me to show you the color range in this wallet. Check out that dramatic color shift. So as I hold it at this angle, definitely more of a darker brown, and as I tilt it down, you can see a little bit of those lighter tones come through. And let's spin the wallet around because there is definitely a directionality of color on every piece of shell Cordovan. So you can see at this angle, it's a little bit darker. Even as I hold the wallet at the same angle here, you'll notice the color just sort of shifts right at you, so it gets a little bit lighter at this angle. Color number 4 shell Cordovan here is definitely darker than the color 2 or garnet shell Cordovan. All these color names came about because the name of the dye mix that Horween was purchasing were just named with simple numbers. So color number 4 was the original color actually for shell Cordovan. If you go back and look at some of the original Florsheim wingtip shoes that were made in the early 1900s, color number 4 was actually the color that they were making all of those Florsheims from. The next color we're going to look at is color number 8 shell Cordovan. And most people think of color number 8 when they think of the leather shell Cordovan. And it's a really beautiful dark brown and burgundy shade. Definitely darker than the color 4 we just looked at. And you might be able to see there's a little bit more purple, almost like reddish purple undertones to it. So a lot of people think that this was the original Cordovan color, but actually the color 4 came before color 8. But let's give this one a nice look. We'll spin it around, see more of those like eggplant colors come through. This one seems to be a little bit more on the burgundy purple range than most of the color 8 I see. Sometimes they're a little bit more red than this. And the last one we're going to look at, this is color number 16, and I actually had a special request into the tannery for this particular piece of shell. I had a customer that was interested in picking up a color number 16 wallet from us. So I had to ask the tannery to make me one of these special. Color 16 is actually kind of similar to either black or color 8 shell. To me, it's sort of a mix between the two. And it's definitely darker than color 8. From the color 16 that I have seen, this is actually a little bit lighter than most of the color 16, which is actually a good thing. I was pretty critical of color 16 when it was first being made. I think it was first being done for Viberg. And I was kind of upset by it because it really looked black. Unless you took your Vibergs out into the sun in the color 16, they just look black inside. And outside, they sort of had this little bit of glow of that eggplant sort of purple color to it. So it's kind of fun for me to see color 16 in person. It's been a few years since I've seen this color myself. And comparing all 4 of these colors is pretty interesting. Let me know which one of these is your favorite. I'm kind of a color 4 guy. And like I said, for a couple decades, color 4 was my favorite shell Cordovan color. These days, Amaretto shell Cordovan is my favorite shell color, but color 4 is definitely number 2. And speaking of color 4, let's come back to these color number 4 shell Cordovan Johnny the Fox wallets. So we've paired some of that beautiful color number 4 shell on the outside of this wallet with a nice contrasting cream stitch, which looks really great. And then we paired that with some special color number 4 horsehide latigo for the interiors. And like I said, we made about a dozen of these wallets for Father's Day. So by the time you're seeing this video, these will be up and available on the private stock page of our website. And to continue our private stock wallets for Dad's Week, this is day 4 of Dad's Week. I've got some special wallets to show you here. The first one we're going to look at is a Johnny the Fox in color 8 shell Cordovan, but this has that Scotch grain texture. So let's spin this guy around and just take a look at the color shift that is happening in this wallet. Some angles, definitely more of a dark brown, and other angles, the lighter range, a little bit more red, a little bit more purple, and definitely a nice burgundy tone to it. On the inside of this wallet, we've paired it with some really special stuff. So I've got some Scotch grain black shell Cordovan on top of color 8 shell Cordovan for the 2nd and 4th card holders, which is a really cool contrast, that alternating black Scotch grain with the color 8. And then we've got some color 8 shell Cordovan in the center. This one also has hand-stained edges. And another really cool textured shell Cordovan wallet. This is Amaretto shell Cordovan with the boxboard texture. And check out that color, really nice sort of golden orangey tan shade. And it's very, very nice. And I like the subtle texture of that boxboard. We don't see a lot of textures on the shells, and I know a lot of people are big fans of collecting all the different textures. Here's a look at the inside where we combined some more of these colors and some more textures. On the bottom card holder, we have color 8 hatch grain on top of Amaretto hatch grain. Then there's natural hatch grain, and on the top, another piece of color 8 hatch grain. We do have some more Johnny the Foxes to look at, but let's take a quick tangent to some other private stock items. This is something that turned out great. I'm going to call this gunmetal. So these items here, this is our metal Chicago comb with a black finish. And it's sort of like a gunmetal finish. We were trying to think of fun items and fun leathers to pair with the black metal combs. We came up with this sheath here, sort of off the gunmetal vibe. So this is a leather called Krypto, Krypto. And it's this really interesting slate color. I'm going to call this gunmetal Krypto. And then you might see the depth of color here on the leather. It's got a really interesting burst effect, and that's because this Krypto leather is finished with a hard wax in the same way that the Dublin leather is finished with a hard wax. So when you flex and crease that leather, you reveal a little bit of the lighter undertones. And in the case of this leather, it's a little bit more gray for the undertones. And we made a couple special Fat Herbies, and these are made for patina. If you're a wallet lover and you want something that's going to age with your style, or maybe your dad wants a nice gift, something that's going to last them forever and change over time, this is what we built for that. So natural shell Cordovan is just about as good as it gets for patina. The color develops to be much darker, more golden brown on the natural shell Cordovan. And we paired the natural shell on the exterior of this Fat Herbie with some reverse natural on the inside. And I really prefer the reverse shell Cordovan for the interior of wallets. I really like how this wears in. It's a little bit more easily filled in on the reverse side of the shell for the interior of a wallet, as opposed to shell on shell. When that shell rubs against itself, it's actually microscopically abrasive, so you get some unsightly scuffs and scratches that are a little bit harder to fill in on the shell as opposed to the reverse shell. And here's a look at the other natural shell Cordovan Fat Herbie. This is from the same batch, but this one had some epic texture in the back. Sometimes I call this the quilted texture, or we call it the epic natural texture. And it's a really, really cool look. It almost looks like it should feel textured, should feel like these little ripples, but it's actually very, very flat and smooth. So it's just more of a look texture as opposed to a feel texture. Let's get a look at the inside of this one too, because every piece of reverse natural is a little bit different, and these two are completely different. Although we do try to cut these Horween ink stamps into that nice visible spot on the left. Let's keep it going with some Johnny the Foxes. This is really, really nice whiskey shell Cordovan on a Johnny the Fox, and we've been doing this contrasting stitch this week for Dad's Week. We think that goes very nicely with just about every color, as well as the natural latigo interior. So we think these natural latigos pair well with just about every color. It's a nice neutral color. If you're not familiar with the whiskey shell Cordovan, this is a pretty rare Cordovan color that Horween makes, and for many years, this was sort of the it color, the color that everybody had to have. These two Johnny the Foxes in whiskey that I have here are a little bit on the darker color range for what I normally see in whiskey shell, Normally it's a little bit darker than the natural shell Cordovan, but has more yellow tones to it. It's a little bit more golden. And the last wallet that we're going to look at today, we'll go back to the beginning of the video. This is color number 4 shell Cordovan again, although on this one we don't have the color 4 on the interior. We're playing off that fun color combo with the cream color stitch on the outside, and then we have the natural latigo on the inside. Just take a look at how beautiful color 4 is. All the shells that we've been receiving recently have been extra nice. You might even be able to see just how nice this feels from the video. Take a look at that bright shiny luster, and it's super smooth. Give you one more look at the interior of this wallet as I pull my wallet out of my pocket. So I've been carrying this Johnny the Fox for a few months now. I actually didn't really keep track of it, and I've been wearing these with raw denim. So the natural latigo on the outside of this wallet is really picking up a lot of the color crocking from my raw denim, and you can see just how bright and shiny the latigo is getting. And this is just from naturally polishing in my pocket. So it's getting really smooth and flat. But look at the inside. You don't see much of that color coming off on the interior of this wallet. And I'm really enjoying the natural latigo for my Johnny the Fox. So thanks for checking out everything in the video today. Hopefully you weren't too confused by the color 2, color 4, color 8, and color 16. I thought it would be a good opportunity to show off the different colors here. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. And until next time, hope you have a good one.